Hey everybody, welcome back to the 150th episode of Taps and Patience, where both of the hosts burp before starting. This was going to be a good intro. My name's AJ with Subtract Manufacturing and Audacity Micro, here with Harrison, the burper of Precision Ingenuity. Actually, I don't think that one was a real burp.
No, it wasn't.
How are you doing, Harrison? Now that you derailed the intro.
I just had to mess with you after you had that.
Oh, gosh. We're professionals.
Yeah, totally professionals.
Professional at something. I can't tell you what yet, but I'm probably professional at something.
Professionals at making everyone else look like they're doing a really good job.
Yeah. Professionals at mopping coolant off my floor.
Oh, what happened?
That is a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I walked away from a program today that I ran 3 times before and came back to a flooded shop. The weird thing was the coolant was still working. Like it hadn't run itself completely dry and my floor was covered in coolant, but it wasn't actively leaking anymore.
Okay.
So I'm thinking what happened is I got a chip log jam that either cleared itself or there was a little bit of a log jam at the end. And it's possible that when I had more coolant, the pump was pumping coolant faster. And at that faster rate, it was enough to overflow. And then eventually it got to the point where the pump was a little bit starved and still able to pump some coolant, but at a reduced flow rate. So the log jam wasn't flooding things anymore. But
so
it was messy.
Remind me, on the 1500s, it's kind of like a Speedio Robo-Drill style coolant where it's got 2 channels that go out the back into a tray. So was your log jam in the tray or in the channels leading to it? And was it both sides or just one?
At the end of one of the channels.
Okay.
So I was running some steel parts that were relatively large, and I think the chips were heavier, and there was a bigger volume of chips than I'm used to. So I don't know. I normally go empty the little chip bins at the back of my machine maybe once a week with the parts that I run. And because these ones were huge, they made enough that in 4 parts, it was able to create a log jam that caused problems.
Yeah.
And plus, I was using, it was actually, the last time I had this issue is when I was running that big production job, and I was using the same tool doing a very similar cut, where it was 3/4 of an inch depth of cut, and it made these kind of long, stringy chips. So
yeah. Interesting. Last week, Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think I don't have issues when it is a light, fluffy chip, like an aluminum or titanium or definitely a plastic. But when it's these heavier chips and they're long and stringy is when I have issues.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, your chip, what your chips are, can cause problems drastically. Yeah. And, if you're doing something that's out of the normal, we've seen that on a lot of our machines. Like the Haas VF does really good with aluminum and stainless, but ironically, steel chips, it doesn't really matter how they're cut, but steel chips clog more than any other chips in the auger. But that's not a problem on the SVM or the UMC because they're belt style. And so those have other problems not associated with what type of chips they are.
That kind of makes sense that steel chips would be the most annoying, because if it's stainless or titanium or something, you're going to be running it a little bit more conservatively. If it's aluminum, then you're running it harder, but the chips are light and fluffy and flowy. But with steel, mild steel, it's kind of the worst case of both, where you can push it fairly hard, but also the chips are going to be heavy.
It has nothing to do with the chip size or shape. It has to do with the material.
Okay.
On the auger specifically. the best way I can describe it is that whenever the auger is running and it's pushing all that material towards the opening, the aluminum chips and the stainless chips, the auger can rotate without them without them grabbing and twisting into a giant wad. Versus steel chips, it doesn't really matter what flavor, if they're large, small, whatever. They like to clump together and hold on to each other and form these rat's nests that just the auger can't push through, and so you have to end up constantly it'll constantly lock up, and then you have to try to hit it with something to try to break the chips apart.
Are you like dropping magnets in your machine or something?
No, they just clump up.
That was a joke, but okay. Yeah.
So, anyways, interesting.
Yeah. I had it flooded from my machine for a while, or had it flooded my shop for a while. I fixed most of the things that can flood it, but we found the one that can't. My shop has actually been really clean and neat recently. It's been great. But I found a way to make a mess.
Yeah. But you've been staying, you stayed busy last week, or were you pretty slow?
I feel like I didn't ship as many parts last week, but I was very busy. I was talking with the Subtract team about it earlier today, and I was busy constantly last week. But if you look at the number of things I checked off on my to-do list, it was, well, honestly, for Subtract, it was basically zero.
Yeah.
For Audacity Micro, it was slightly more than zero, but not many. But I was really busy somehow.
I understand. I definitely understand. Did you get? But you did some machining though.
Yes, mostly on Friday when I had Intern in.
Did you find another part for him to do, or did you just happen to have something? Did you have to go look for something for him to do, or did you already have something lined up for him?
I took a job earlier in the week from Big Blue that he could run, and then we didn't get to it. And there was a rush Subtract job that came up, and I had the tooling and material on hand, and it's I can do this in a day, whereas if we asked another shop, it would be reasonably at least a week, unless we paid them a huge amount of money. So I just took that one, and we went from there.
Got it knocked out.
I think we may have talked about that last week, where we got confused on a PO and we made the wrong part for him. Did we talk about that?
I don't think so.
So this customer has a bunch of different assemblies, and the inside each assembly, there's part number 1 and part number 2 and part number 3 and part number 4. And we got an RFQ from him that was part number 1 and part number 2 from assembly A, and then part number 3 from assembly B. And we missed that it was a different assembly, because the assemblies don't have neat names like A, B, C, D. They're P3X 4941 and P3X 4942, and it was one digit off, and we just missed it. And so we made him the wrong part. We made him the part from the wrong assembly. And
gotcha.
It was weird though, because he sent an RFQ. We responded with a quote. Our quote had the part that we ended up shipping him. The purchase order that he responded to our quote from had the correct, he got what was on the purchase order, but it was not what was in his RFQ.
Okay.
Which is a hairy situation of who's at fault here.
Yeah. Because you obviously quoted the wrong thing, but then he approved the wrong thing.
Yes. So there's a really easy solution here. One, take care of the customer first, and figure everything else out later. 2, the parts that we made are ones that he will order again. So we just have them in stock now. He sent them back to us. They're sitting on my shelf, and at some point he'll order them, and basically
you just ship them.
Free parts. Yeah, we ship them back to him. So that's a pretty good solution for all parties involved. And then I made the parts that he was supposed to get the first time.
Gotcha.
Well, that he wanted, but yeah, I don't know. Weird situation. And we sat down and talked to the customer, figured out how we're going to not do this again. We are going to add images of the parts to it wasn't the quote document. Maybe it was the quote. I don't know. We're going to add images to our parts, at least one of the documents that the customer gets so that he can, visually see that it's the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to start on his part specifically. We had a bad habit of being inconsistent about the names. Sometimes, like if it was part, P01 or whatever, sometimes it would say P01 in our system. If it was the, ball arm crank or whatever, sometimes it would say ball arm crank, even though ball arm crank is P002 somewhere else. Like it got messy, and we just need to be consistent about that.
Yeah.
Some lessons learned there.
Does he send you prints or just file names? Or both?
That was the other one. So this customer breaks our normal systems. Traditionally, 99% of our jobs come through the Subtract Manufacturing website as a step file. And then that step file follows everything throughout the whole thing. This customer sends us drawing packets. And we actually modeled this part ourselves. And so we had to name it ourselves. We also didn't quite understand there's going to be 13 different assemblies that all have the same part names.
Do they have different file names or like if you're looking at a drawing, there's usually a part number and a part name. Is it like Correct. That format?
Yes. So basically there's an assembly drawing and then a bill of materials, and then the parts are ballooned and it'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the bill of materials, it'll say like P3X 492 P001. And then in the next box over, it'll be bell crank arm or whatever the part is. And
so part number and description.
So part number and description. And all of them would have like a P001, P002. And that would match the balloon drawing. So like P001 would be the one on the balloon drawing. And basically because we didn't get all of these assemblies at the same time. So when we were modeling them up, we just kind of went with whatever name made the most sense at the time without thinking of the greater context of, we might have 6 assemblies where the names are almost the same.
Yeah. So that's where you named your files based off the part number, not off of the description.
Correct. And it needs to include the full assembly name too. Because some of the ones that were the problem were named just after the part number. Without that assembly prefix.
So you have different assemblies with parts in them, and the parts have the exact same number in the context of that assembly.
Yes.
Oh, that is annoying. I misunderstood. That makes sense.
So, I mean, it's one of those mistakes that's easy to make, but also is kind of inexcusable.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like if you're giving a part number, it needs to be unique, even across like all the other stuff. Like you shouldn't have 2 identical part numbers that matter depending on which assembly they're in.
Sure.
That's bad part number skews.
Yeah. I feel like we used to do that with the job where I made the big custom compressor packages. I think we did that a lot too. And I'm pretty sure it caused problems.
Yeah. You need to always have unique numbers. Even like what we did at my old job is we would have different prefixes, but at the end there was always a randomly generated string. And so no matter if the prefixes in front of it were all the same, there was always a unique string number associated with every single file. Even if you did want to string, assemblies and sub-assemblies and weldments, and they all had their own unique identifiers in front of them that could all string together, there was always a number at the very end that was sequentially generated every time a file was made.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Just for that main reason, because you can't use the same name multiple times. So That's yeah. That's an understandable mistake now that I understand the problem at hand.
To make these parts, I had to put my 6-inch vise back in my machine,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgot how much I hate not having like the 0 point setup.
Oh, I thought you were going to say how much you hate not having that 6-inch vise.
No, I hate having the vise. The amount of like faffing around with work coordinate systems you have to do when you're using just a regular vise is so annoying. And maybe, I mean, I'm sure like people obviously use vices and do a good job at it. And it's probably just because my systems aren't set up for it. But like, I don't know, there was so much more dealing with like probing and, making sure that you're typing in the right work coordinate system. And on these ones, very traditional workflow. Op one, hold it in serrated jaws, machine the top, flip it over onto parallels, and machine off the top hat. But because you can't probe the part directly, put a parallel underneath the thingy against the side of the part, probe the parallel, shift over. And on one of the parts, I just like forgot to do the work coordinate shift. And so all of my features on the backside were 1/2 inch off. And at one point I like overrode the wrong offset and I had to go reprobe stuff. And then my probe did something weird where it didn't apply the length offset of the probe on a tool change, I think, which was very strange. But I probed everything in that, and then I got it was only in Z. And so I probed everything in, and I got the part loaded up, and I did my offset. Then I went to cut the part, and it was cutting like 6 inches above the part. And then because it was Z, and I had to probe the top of the parallels to get my Z, I had to take the part back out and then probe the top of the parallels, then put the part back in, and then hold the parallel up against the part, and then probe the side of the parallel, and then do my shift again. Whereas with my 0 point system, I do basically zero probing. Yeah. Occasionally, I will probe the top of a part, but for the most part, I just throw it in there and go. Like I already know how big all of my soft jaws are. I actually don't have I don't have a template set up with the vices modeled in there on the 0 point system where I can adjust just from the 0 point. But I just do it from the center of the palette and just adjust my Z up and down. And I can change over jobs and get started on something new with that in like 20 seconds. But with vices, it was much slower.
Yeah, which is it because the vice has one fixed jaw and one floating jaw that's the problem, and your other jaws are self-centering? Or is it because you just don't have a good workflow?
It's probably realistically because I don't have a good workflow. Because you could, have one work coordinate system for like the back center of the jaws that you use for op 1, and then do like your back left corner for op 2 or something. And then actually you would still just have to probe Z to change for your parallel height. But
well, you don't even have to do that if you know your parallels. So like I do the bottom of my
you can do it off the bottom.
And then I just have a template and I need to do more templates. This is the template I created, I guess, a year and a half ago at this point. Wow, time flies. And I've been using it forever. And I just have it as an offset plane, and then I just plug in an equation my parallel heights, and it adjusts. And then, but the offset stays in the machine the same.
Do you do many op 2s and hard jaws?
Oh yeah, okay. Lots.
I don't do that basically ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I have a lot of parts that are square that are easily done in hard jaws.
When I have my 0 point system on the table and I'm using that, I will make soft jaws for a square piece of part, for a square part.
If I did that, I would be one of the largest consumers of soft jaws.
Well, I average like 10 uses out of each pair of my soft jaws.
Yeah,
And
most of the time when I create soft jaws, I have to hang on to it because it's for a customer and it's going to come up again. So I can't reuse them. I have to charge it to that job, and then I have to order another set of soft jaws to replace those, so I have enough on hand in case something comes up. So right now I have a cabinet.
I
It's
remember your cabinet.
about
It was a cool cabinet.
3/4, or no, it's about close to half full. So yeah, it is a cool cabinet. That is a cool cabinet. I haven't ever like gone to see if I can find like where that cabinet was made or what it is. But it is a pretty cool cabinet.
Yeah, my soft jaws are like I need to check what I have two lengths. I have a long length, which I know is 4 inches, and a short length, which I believe is 2 or 2.5 inches of 1x2 aluminum. The cycle time to make them is less than like 3 minutes, op 1 and op 2. And every now and then I'll just buy a bar of aluminum and I'll crank out 20 of those, and they'll last me like a year.
Yeah. So your material and your soft jaws are all small. If I had to do that with 6-inch soft jaws, it'd be a lot for that. Not impossible. I mean, I could set it up on like the VersaBuilt and just have it make soft jaws whenever I wanted it to. That is an option. But
or get the like fancy dovetail soft jaws.
Yeah. I've thought about that. I think that would be something that, like, if I was ever to upgrade my vices, I'd want to have, or even sell it as like an add-on, but it eats up your work holding space. So, but yeah, I've thought about that. That'd be nice.
Except there's more efficient ways to make a lot of the parts that I do, but being able to have the exact same process, whether it's like a funky shape or just prismatic, makes it so easy. And a lot of air sneaks in on that work holding in the second op. And just being able to, cut a pair of soft jaws and stick your part in and hey, go. No probing or anything. Like, it's worth the trade-off to me.
Yeah.
But again, different shops, different parts.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's really hard to look at another shop that has a process that works and is reliable and go, that's a poor way to do it, because if you were in their shoes, you might end up with the same result. So yeah, like every shop will end up coming up with their kind of their own best practices. But yeah.
On that note, I need a whole bunch of work holding in the near future here for something I don't think we've talked about yet, have we?
We have not.
Okay, let's bury the lead and talk about vices first. So I need like 30 of those. I need like 30 of those little vices, and something that could be easily loaded by a non-human entity. Option A is buy like 25 of the little serrated jaw vices. And if I did that, I would have to buy, like, there's different sizes of them. There's ones that's for like 0 to 1 inch material. And then there's another one that's like 1 to 2 inch material. And then there's also the version for soft jaws. And so let's say for round number's sake, I'm buying 40 vices. I would have to buy like 15 of the 0 to 1 inch vices and then 15 more of the 1 to 2 inch vices, and then whatever number is left, because I didn't do the math, of the soft jaw vices. But what if I bought all of just the soft jaw vices? Which the way those look, they basically have a C channel on top of either jaw with some holes that you can bolt down into. What if I made my own hard jaws that could swap in and out of the soft jaw vices, so that I could just swap out the jaws to get different sizes as needed?
Can you just buy the carriers?
Yes, but it's not economical. And changing over the jaws is really annoying on those.
That's one thing I like about Lang, is it's real easy to change out the jaw carriers. And so if it's something easy like that, or if it's just hard jaws that snap on, and then you can snap on soft jaws. That's like is the hard jaw, I guess, all one carrier? Like you can't, if you get the
Yes.
hard jaw version, you can't do soft jaws with it.
You can, but it's really annoying. Basically, you have to remove both jaws and the screw, and then put in both jaws and in the screw. And the quality standards are not always fantastic, and sometimes they're really loose and sometimes they're tight.
Which vice is this?
The Zindian little Iroha ones. I think they match the vices to the jaws somehow. Like they either test fit them until they find a pair that works or something. I have some of those jaws, like I have some spare jaws for the ones I have that won't go into some of the vice bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had other ones that are like super loose. They're just cheap. I mean, they're really, really cheap vices, and you get what you pay for. Which is another reason why I like the soft jaws, is because if you're doing op2 work holding, you need a nice vice if you're not using soft jaws, because you need that repeatability and you don't want jaw lift and stuff. Whereas with soft jaws, as long as you use a torque wrench and, you know, torque the like soft jaw operation to the same torque as your part operation, then you get consistent jaw lift. But
gotcha.
I don't know. I'm still undecided. Where do I want to invest my money? In making hard jaws or in just buying more vices?
Well, let me ask you this. If you made your own hard jaws, how often would you be switching them over to soft jaws?
I'll land on some number that is the right number of soft jaw vices. It's probably in the realm of like 5, where I don't have to make, 30 pairs of soft jaws for each production run that I'm doing. But also I have enough walk away time to be reasonable. Switching between like the 1 to 2 inch jaws versus the 0 to 1 inch jaws would be what it's saving, or what I could do. And that would happen probably somewhat regularly.
What I would probably do then, if I were you, is I would start off by, if my ultimate goal was to have 40 vices, I would start off buying 3 of each and setting it up and seeing which vices I gravitated to the most and what my process becomes, and then fill out and order more and just keep buying, 3 vices at a time, 5 vices at a time. 1, that'll help spread out the cost. And 2, that'll help you kind of organically figure out, what am I using? What makes sense for workflow? Does it make sense to have a whole bunch of soft jaws and then put in hard jaws? What happens if I make a whole bunch of hard jaws and they're inconsistent between each other to a point where they cause problems with other things?
Yeah, the hard jaws will only be used for op1, so that's not a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the economics of this decision is shipping, where they will be coming from overseas on a boat, and it's going to be like if you order any quantity of them, it's like $300, whether you buy 10 or if you buy 50. And $300 is like 6 vices worth. So there's incentive to do one bulk buy, as not lean as that is.
Yeah.
And I have been using these vices for a while, and I know that basically I use some op ones and some of the 0 to 1s. I use those probably 75% of the time. 25% of the time I use the 1 to 2s or whatever they are. I think it's actually like 50 to 75 millimeters.
So then let me ask you this. Do you have some of the soft jaw vices right now?
Mm-hmm. I have 2.
Why don't you just make a set of hard jaws for them and see how you like them?
That's fair. I could.
I mean, if you already have them, and if that's something you're considering, try it, see if it's something you like, use it for a while, and then if there's no downside to it, just do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And yeah, then you can get all the same vice. So
the other reason I like making the jaws myself is I can make them lower profile.
Yeah.
Because the import ones are 3 millimeters. And I don't know, I would like maybe a 16th, if that's doable.
So Try that. See if you like it. Go from there.
It's a good idea. I'll design them and have Intern make them.
Yeah. And if you're designing them yourself, what you could do is, this might get expensive, but it also might be nice. You could design them to work with like pit bulls or the serrated jaws that you just buy and bolt in. And then if you have problems, you can pop them out and put new ones in. Like if you machine into them, or if you want to change them out to something else. That's what we do on our VersaBuilt, is we buy the little strips because they're all aluminum. And so you don't really have a hard jaw or anything like that. So you have to make everything op 1 and op 2. They do have some universal ones, but that hasn't worked for anything that we've done for the most part. We do have a set just in case. But we use those like, I think they're Raptor branded ones, like a strip. But I know Pitbull or Mighty Bite sells some different ones, like the Talons.
The Chinese company might actually have them too, now that I think about it. But.
So, yeah, I'd give that a shot. So, did you do? I'm sure people have figured it out by now. But do you want to tell?
I thought we were going to go on to what you were up to.
No, we got to finish. We got to close this thing out. Why do you need so many vices, AJ?
So I now have a robot in my shop.
Yay!
I need help on names. I have it down to 2.
Okay.
So, and for context, it's a UR5. It is a 2016, but it has 18 hours of cycle time on it.
Oh my goodness.
It was bought by a paper company that was using it to unload notepads and like put them in a box or something. And it couldn't keep up with their notepad maker machine. So they stuck it on a shelf. And then the maintenance guy took it home. And then I bought it from the maintenance guy. So it's basically unused, but a little bit old.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's basically straight off the shelf UR robot. It did come with a single pneumatic flippy gripper and the controller and everything for it. And that is it. So that will get integrated to the Tormach somehow. I'm feeling Norman is going to be very busy with support requests in the near future. I did start working on some of the software foundations like a year ago, and so I need to kind of waken those up and refresh that project.
Look through your old code and go, what idiot started to design this?
Yep, pretty much. Throw it into ChatGPT, be like, fix this. And so my plan is pallet loading with those little row of vices. This basically been my plan for like 3 years. For just testing purposes, I bolted it down to one of those rolling toolboxes just so that I could play with it. And, since then I've made it go in circles. I've made it go in lines. I made it go up and down. I made it go left and right. That's about it. So I need to buy some like solenoids and stuff so I can control the gripper, because it did not come with any of those. And I need to figure out how to get it talking to the Tormach. And I need to build shelves for the pallets. And I need a base that the robot can sit on, bolt to. Because my toolbox is not rigid enough for that robot. Like it has some freedom to wiggle, which is the death of accuracy on these things. They really like to be bolted down to a really solid base.
Yeah, they do not want to move. So that is in the future at some point here. And actually, this is something we haven't talked about. So we talked about Tall Jacob, the intern. But what about second intern? You have 2 interns?
Well, he hasn't started yet. So the other guy was one that I met when I was doing the first round of interviews. He's a high school student, super deep on like the first robotics team, big into 3D printers, building Vorons, custom mods to them, playing with the firmware, kind of all that kind of thing. And I really liked this kid, but I didn't really have anything for him to do at the time. And so I went, hey, do you want to work on this robot project with me? And he will not be nearly as time intensive as first intern Jacob, but he'll help me like put together the stand sum, and he'll probably be 40 hours total on this project with me, something like that. Something pretty low commitment on his end. But it'll be helpful to have some extra hands.
That'll be good. Now you have to keep 2 people busy.
Yeah. I mean, they both are plenty busy. I really would love to have Tall Jacob for at least another day a week.
What's stopping you?
He does. I mean, I could probably cajole him into it, but like our agreement was 1 day a week.
Okay.
And
so he's the limiting factor.
Good. Right now, yeah. I could probably convince him to do a second day, but he does have another job, remember? He's doing that like piecework knife making.
Yeah. No,
he likes.
Which is fine. I just didn't know if it was like if he was just doing this for fun, if he was doing it to eventually go full time, if like what it was.
I think he's mostly doing it to pick up some skills and to pad his resume.
Gotcha.
From talking to him, it wasn't like he was interested in starting a machining business or something down the road. I think he's just kind of
coming in working full time.
What he wants to do. Yeah, I think he knows that he likes his current gig where he goes in and he plays blacksmith for a couple hours a day, and he makes as many knives as he wants and then is done. I think it's a pretty good gig, especially when you're like 22 or whatever he is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he also knows that company isn't going to last forever and that gig's not going to be super sustainable. And so he's trying to figure out what to do long term.
Gotcha.
I would happily take him for longer. Like I would happily have him 2 or 3 days a week. Worst case scenario, if we run out of stuff to do, go to Zom and take a couple jobs. Last time he was here on Friday, he started doing some programming. So he's able to run the Tormach pretty well. And he did technically program a part. There is going to be there's a huge learning curve with programming, obviously. But he did all the steps. So he'll eventually be pretty useful, probably by about the time we're done with programming.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now, he's turning a profit. So I pay him less than he makes me. So just ramp that up.
If only it was so easy.
Yeah.
No, it can be. So
yeah, need to get more subtract work so we could Audacity can start taking more of the subtract work. And I mean, there's always Big Blue for filler.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. That's good.
I've been talking, and we have a lot, and we have a ton of Patreon questions. So it's your turn to talk a lot.
It's my turn to talk a little bit. All right. So
no, a lot.
A lot for Patreon or about my week at the shop?
No, your shop update.
Shop update.
This is some machining knockoff stuff.
Okay. Last week was pretty busy. And once again, we were pretty efficient and got a lot knocked out. So
nice.
Very happy about that. Had the UMC, VF, and SVM all running for one customer. And we were able to pump out a lot of parts. And they were a lot of small runs, so I didn't need the robot. And so it was some true job shop, small, nice. 5 parts, 10 parts, 1 part stuff in the UMC. And so it was pretty good to be able to kind of use that machine as like a job shop machine instead of a production machine. And we only ran aluminum in it, but I ran so much aluminum and so much bigger parts that I'm used to that we have that big bin that or the big tote that it dumps the aluminum chips into. And I was basically filling up 1 a day, where before, whenever I'm running production work, the parts are small and I can get almost 3 days, about 2.5 days of it running 24/7. And I was filling it up in less than 8 hours. Yeah. And so it was a lot more chips that I'm used to seeing in that machine. And I'd have to constantly stop and scrape all the chips out of it. And so I can definitely see on bigger parts how the chip management in that machine can suck. So the smaller parts has been a pretty big blessing. in that machine for like chip management and running unattended. Because they will build up even with the smaller parts, but it's like they build up over the series of a week. And then when I shut it down for the weekend, when I first started up, I always do a clean out. And then I can last about a week before the chips build up to a point where it's like a problematic inside the machine. So, but yeah, so we did a lot of that. We also had something happen today, which is pretty cool. We are officially AS9100 certified. So got our approval letter today, and so we can mark that off of our list of to-dos, which is a big stress reliever to
Stick
find
that on your website.
Yeah, we're going to. There's a whole lot of stuff that we got to do to, make that visible, but we are officially certified. So excited about that. And I know our medical customer is going to be really excited about this. I called and talked to them last week, and I didn't know this, but they are doing 100% inspection on 100% of our parts. And we've produced, at this point, close to 6,000, 7,000 parts for them. And we haven't heard a peep of a problem. And I didn't know they were doing 100% inspection on 100% of our parts because we were under their umbrella. I didn't know that part. I thought they were just doing it like 1 in 30 or something.
Would they tell you if 1 in 1,000 parts was bad, do you think? Or would they just toss it and move on?
I don't know. I assume that they would tell us, just because they're not shy about feedback. But I don't know for sure. I asked my contact if they had any problems, and they said that they hadn't heard any from anything that's been received in. They said they've been doing an inspection and they haven't heard a pip of a problem. So, I mean,
that's good.
It's very good. So, I'm pretty psyched about that. So, and hopefully I'll be getting 2 more medical parts up and running production. They're smaller. Like, now that we've kind of gotten the first parts that we did for medical, like we were doing close to 1,000 a month, but it seems like their normal numbers are closer to like 1 to 200 a month of different SKUs. So not as high volume as I thought it was going to be initially, but they're wanting to give us more parts. And I said, well, let's get these next 2 kind of lined up, because they've kind of eaten our lunch getting the next 2 parts kind of proven out in first articles. And there's been a lot of back and forth, and we tried going straight to custom tooling on a lot of it, and some of that's kind of bit us in the butt because it's all hardened stuff. And so we're trying to use as much off the shelf as we can. And it's taking longer because of that, but 1, the tools are a lot less expensive, and 2, the turnaround time is a lot quicker. So, if I order a custom tool, like custom drill bits, for example, it's an 8-week turnaround. And so if I burn up all my inventory of those, I got to wait another 8 weeks, and that's just painful.
And to make sure you have 8 weeks of stock, you have to spend,
a
12 times more.
Yeah. And then if it only lasts, because this is, hardened stuff, and usually my parts only last, or my tools only last like between 30 to 100 parts, that can get really expensive too. So, yeah.
And when you say hard, we're still in like the 50 Rockwell category, right? Not 60 or...
Yeah, it's really hard for us. It's the hardest stuff that we've machined. So we're not in 60s yet, but we're in low 50s, low to mid 50s.
So harder than like a 4140 hardened, but softer than a knife.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, and then I talked about our electropolish thing last week. So we should be getting those parts back. We did switch out our blasting cabinet from like an 80 grit to a bead blast, to like a glass bead media. and we ran some of the medical parts because that's what they call out for. And I think that's the finish I want to put on every part I ever make going forward, because it is just, it's such a nice texture and it's such a nice look. Like if I ever make a product, it's close to like the Apple texture on their Macs.
Well, that's how they do it. So
yeah. But I mean, this is for stainless parts, and so like it's a stainless with that type of finish, and so a hardened stainless with that finish, and so it looks really good.
Still like the 50 Rockwell?
Yeah,
I didn't know you could bead blast stuff that hard.
Yeah. So that's I mean, part of the problem with that is that we have to have our machining, like it doesn't hide your machining marks as well because of that. And so that's some of the stuff that we're having to adjust a little bit, is try to get to where we have zero machining marks straight off the machine. So we're fighting that a little bit, but I mean, the parts look incredible and we're being as picky as we can be for what they are. But I was stressed out about these parts, and now that I've got a couple of them coming off the machine, they are looking really good. They're running really good. The cycle time is a whole lot longer than I was expecting, but that's mainly because the live tool holders on the lathe are much slower than regular machines, if you didn't know. So
I feel like I tried to warn you about that in advance, but
yeah. But, you know, this is the most mill heavy part we've run on it so far, and so this kind of will give us kind of a template going forward as to what to expect.
That's good.
That said, when I first programmed it, it was over an hour per part, and I've gotten it down to closer to 20 minutes apart.
Nice.
So, and I still think there's some wiggle room in there for me to kind of speed up some different parts of it, but I definitely see a machine like a Swiss or a Willy.
Willman.
A Willy.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so Integrex when?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not making enough of those parts, enough of these parts yet, but like that is the perfect machine for this type of work. For both of them, honestly. Like one of them is a lathe part with heavy milling, and the other one's a mill part, but they're both small enough that they could go into a bar and be bar fed on a Williman, and it'd be perfect. Actually, all three of the parts I'm doing could be, and it'd be the perfect machine for it.
I've had my eye on a few Swiss machines, like on Facebook Marketplace, that are old and beat up, but like super cheap and running right now. And I kind of want to get one just to learn on it. And there's like Subtract has a need for more Swiss machines, so it like there would be parts for it. And I don't know, I could learn on it, and then if I like it, if it works well for me, buy a nice one or a nicer one.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then hey, I spent, a couple grand and learned some stuff and made a YouTube video about it or whatever.
Yep. That said, I've been playing around a little bit more with AI in the work, and like the Microsoft Copilot, and ask machining questions. And it's done a really good job of like troubleshooting different problems I run into every once in a while. And I asked it some more like technical questions about like specific problems I have in certain materials and certain feature specific scenarios. And it's actually recommending me some like different tools to try for that kind of stuff. So I might end up getting a couple new tools to try out to see if what it recommends ends up working. So
that'll be interesting.
It will be. So to kind of go elaborate a little bit more on that particular one. And I actually asked Titans of CNC this question when I visited his shop a year and a half ago or whenever it was. But whenever we're doing like stainless parts and we're doing it where we have the top hat on the other side and you have that like 1/8 inch material that you're trying to eat away, I have had such a hard time trying to find a good tool that can remove that material away efficiently without, breaking inserts or taking a whole lot of time. And what I've ultimately ended up having to do is I've tried face mills and I've tried high feed mills and I've tried large end mills. And I've tried a whole bunch of different things. and I talked through all the stuff I've tried with ChatGPT, and it recommended me, what tool was it? Googling on the podcast. Let me look.
I've got you.
Here we go. It recommended the Turbo 10 from Seco. And so,
Is it a traditional end mill?
It's
end flute?
It's an insert shoulder mill.
Interesting.
And so, and it gave the reasons it recommended it. Basically said, I could go back through my history, but it said something about it being like a high positive rake angle, and it could cut down really thin, down to like 10 to 20 thou height thickness for like just skimming off the top, as well as shoulder milling up to I think a 1/4 inch deep. And it could slot, it could face, it could shoulder mill. And like, because one of the tools it recommended that I try was a tool I already had, which was the Dodeca face mill from Kennametal. And I explained that tool, what I tried with it. And it's like, yeah, the way you're using it, you're just going to eat through inserts because you're not taking a big enough cut with it. It's designed to hog material away. And whenever you get thin like that, you're just going to burn up inserts, which is what I was experiencing. So,
have you tried the AV Tools top hat removal tool?
I haven't. I think you mentioned it a long time ago as well.
Yeah, and I know Dylan talks about one. I don't remember if that is the AV Tools one or if that's a different one. But as we've discussed before, just copying whatever Dylan does is a pretty good business plan.
Yeah.
But I would definitely try the AV Tools one.
But it was cool because I also had, I've had some inconsistent tool life every once in a while with Frasia, and I kind of talked through some of the stuff with it, and the AI was like, Frasia tools are dope. It's not the tool.
It's because they were trained. It's because that AI was trained on within tolerance.
It basically said, it's not the tool, it's you. It's how you're using it. And so, which makes sense. I mean, I've had, I'm using that tool in a lot of scenarios, and it's really designed for like a very narrow band of what I'm using it for. And when I use it outside that band, I'm shortening its tool life. In combination with another thing it recommended was better tool holders.
I was about to say that.
So
you've talked about Rigo for like 10 years.
Yeah, I know. We keep buying other shit. So
is this the year of Rigo? I
want it to be. Weston does not want to buy Rigo until we can afford the like powered unit. And I would be fine at this point with just getting the hand pump. Like I don't necessarily think we need to go all out and get the. And Weston's mindset is, well, buy once, cry once, and it's like, yeah, well, if it's going to take us 30 years to get it, I'd rather get the other one and get using it because I need the holders more than I need the automatic fancy thing. So
it looks like Maritool doesn't have a machine for it yet. I was really hoping that Maritool would come out with one.
Yeah.
Because they have their, Rigo compatible.
Yeah. Are they the first company to come out with Rigo compatible?
As far as I know, I can't say that's something I've done a lot of research into.
Yeah.
But they were the first one that I was aware of.
Yeah.
I'm actually not seeing it on their website. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, because I need to open the Cat 40 ones first. Are they the Mega Grip? Yeah, the Mega Grip.
Mega Grip.
Yeah, because they're only $200 a holder.
Yeah. But I want to get a couple of those holders, especially because in the beginning, like, we're only going to have a couple holders for some core tools, the ones that'll see the biggest benefit from it. And so, like, I'm not going to put everything in a Rigo, at least not for a long time, because I can't afford that. But
yeah, but it's like the same price as a shrink fit. It's actually cheaper than a shrink fit from Maritool, not including collets. But
yeah, and I think. Yeah, we'll see. It's something I've been talking about for a long time, but we keep finding other stuff that we need more than Rigo. And so it keeps getting pushed down and down and down in favor of other things for the shop, which it's a decision we make me and Weston make at the same together. We're making it as a team. We're looking at what the shop needs and weighing our options and going, yeah, we need this more than this. But I think at some point we need to make the decision to switch to Rego, or at least to get started down that path, because I bet there's going to be a pretty big benefit.
Well, and it's one of those things where kind of like metrology stuff, where it's like, does it really directly make you more money? Well, yeah, but also no.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It seems like in the world of machining, there's always something that you need to buy. So,
yes.
You're never going to run out of things that you need to buy.
I was checking to see if there's one of those machines on eBay. Ooh, there is. Right now. Could be yours. $7,600.
Yeah, I looked at that one the other day.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah, I know. So...
Just do it. Right now.
Yeah, just do it.
Just go. You can talk to Weston later.
Yeah. But, yeah, so we got that going on. But anyways, all that to say... I'm trying to remember how we got started down this with the Rego fix and stuff, but what's here? Trying to follow that all the way back. Something to do with the medical parts. They want us to take on more work, and we gotta get through these parts before we do. So, but they're asking us to look at more work, and we've got a lot of like production work that's now starting to like show up, which is awesome. But the last 5 or 6 parts have been such a headache to get going that it's not all sunshines and rainbows. I'm sure it is once it all gets running, but my goodness, the amount of headache I've had trying to get some of this stuff going is... I wanted to throw something across the shop today just because one of the production jobs I'm trying to get going, we're measuring it on a CMM, and our customer has a CMM, and I thought they were using a CMM, but they're using hand tools, and then they're telling us that our measurements are not matching, and they're using like calipers and like radius gauges visually, and it's like, and like some of the measurements that they're doing with calipers, I'm looking at it and I can't physically find a way to measure it with calipers. Because it's like you got a hole that's going this way, and then you've got a slot that's going this way, and then they're measuring from the center line of that hole to this slot, and there is no way the hole's going this way. You can't put your calipers into it. They're 90 degrees.
Can you put a pin in the hole and then...
No, you can't. Not without putting the calipers at an angle, and then your measurement's invalid. So I don't know how they're doing it with calipers, but it's very upsetting because these parts have like 60 dimensions on them, and 3 of them are critical. And all the other stuff is basically cosmetic. And they have stupid tight tolerances dimensions on almost everything. And it's like, why? Like, there's like 3, maybe 6 most dimensions that matter. And I can guarantee you that if I took the parts that they're already getting and threw them on my CMM, they would be more out than the parts I'm making. So, anyways.
This is the same customer, right? That has the CMM?
Yes. But they're not using it. That's the frustrating part.
Yeah. They probably just don't have like the fixture and everything you would need for it.
They have like 6 CMMs.
Well, they don't have 6 fixtures.
These are parts that they've been already getting these parts. They're just reshoring it to the US. So, I don't know. It's frustrating. But I'll get through it. And yeah. It's just annoying. But and some of it could honestly just be like us learning how to, like, some of it I'm not 100% convinced isn't just because of Weston learning how to get good using the CMM, because I don't think On some of the measurements, I'm not 100% sure I trust the values we're getting off the CMM. And it's because the features are so small and the points are so close together that how it's computing them, I don't know how accurate it can actually be. If you're measuring a 3 millimeter radius with a 4 millimeter ball, and the radius is only, or the radius is only over an angle of like 150 degrees, so that'd be like a 30 degrees of that is actual radius. There's a very small area, and the ball to radius size is so close that, like, I don't know if I trust being able to scan that small with that close of ball to feature size and get an accurate measurement. If that makes sense.
Your little teeny tiny tip.
We're using that on a different part, and it could. I don't know. I don't think it can get into where that one is because of other features.
Star.
Yeah, because it's a star. I need like a single one of those sticking out to be able to do something like that.
You can buy those.
I know I can, but we've already got it all going like this. And like I said, it's a visual feature. It doesn't freaking matter.
If it matters to the customer, it matters.
That's the thing, is I don't think it matters to the customer.
It matters to the inspection department.
I don't even know if it matters to them. I think it only matters to them because we are CMMing it. So basically, the moral of the story is only CMM the features that they want, and then use hand gauges and calipers and everything else for everything that's not critical.
Well, do you know what is critical?
Our Patreons.
All of our Patreons get access to our weekly Q&A, which we'll do here momentarily. There is a free tier on Patreon where you don't have to pay anything. That's what free means. And you can sign up and participate in the Q&A. A fair number of our questions came through that way this time. So no credit card, no nothing needed. It's not a free trial. It's a free. Speaking of free trial, actually says nothing to do trial. Speaking of paying on Patreon, by the way, PSA, don't sign up for Patreon from your phone, whether it's Android or iPhone. If you sign up from your phone, either Google or Apple takes 30% of what you are paying. So 30% goes to Apple plus, I don't know, like 3 or 4% to Patreon before it gets to us. So sign up from your computer so you're not paying that extra payment process fee. Well, really, so that Harrison and I aren't paying that extra payment process fee. Just PSA. We have, and Discord. So our best perk by far is our Discord server. If you join any paid tier on Patreon, you get access to our Discord server. It's a super awesome, really good community that absolutely has a life of its own now. There's weekly weekly group chats every Friday that they arranged without us. And so stop being upset that we're not there. I'm sorry that we're not there, but we're both busy on Fridays. We should really do another weekday live chat with everybody at some point that's not Friday.
Yeah.
But it's just like a really solid community. I've said this a couple times. Subtract basically came out of that community. There's definitely been other business dealings that have come out of there. I don't think we've caused a marriage yet, but it'll happen someday. So, and definitely friendships are built there. It'll be really fun in IMTS this year.
Is there a single female person in our Discord?
I don't think so. Maybe they're non-traditional marriages. Speaking of no.
That's the wrong segue.
Speaking of segues, we have a whole lot of new Patreons this time around. Our new Patreons are Adam V, Jeremy. I'm going to go with Jeremy E, Patrick B, Russell M, Jonathan B. Jeremy, if I said your name wrong, let me know. If any of the other ones I say your name wrong, let me know as well. So those are new Patreons. Thank you guys. We really appreciate you. All of these funds are going to be used towards our IMTS meetup this year. And yes, we are having an IMTS meetup on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. It's the day before the Within Tolerance meetup, probably. I haven't heard him announce anything, but it's traditionally on Wednesdays. So we will be doing it on Tuesday, most likely at the Tormach booth. That hasn't been confirmed, but yeah. Our $10 a month, $10 a month or more Patreons are Russell M, Joseph E, Brian B, Jacob S, Chris at CDS Plastics, John S, Alex H, Avery M, Chris B at Puda Creek Precision, Josh at Leighton Machine, Millen Y, Devin C, Alex at Mill City Roasters, Christian O, Stephen M, Horse Pulverizer Incorporated, Daniel R, James at Moultrie Made, Ryan at Strider Manufacturing, Kyle at Chris Machine, Devin at Sinister Machine Works, Greg at Frogtown Manufacturing. Welcome to the Subtract Network, Greg. James, let me take a drink from my comically oversized water bottle. James N, Bennett Prickly Pear Prototypes, Cam S, Shep at Alderson Prototyping, Jacob at Zonin Precision, Jason S, Joshua H, Christian Z, Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z, 2Z Systems. You guys are killing me today. Trey V, Alexander B, Scott at Design the Everything, Jamie at JSpic Engineering, Chris at Zyke Precision, EJ at Nocturnal Welding, Chris at Thought Bomb Design, and as ever, Jake Brownson, who I saw comment on that John SL video. Is that his name? The guy who has the office mill.
Are you talking about Titan Ring Design or
no? He does kind of a wide variety of things. I know his name is John. I think there's some letters after that.
Does he have the older one?
His office mill is really similar to mine.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And a reminder, at some point, guys, we're going to have to up the amount of money to get on this list because it literally almost killed me today. I could have died, which no, I really do appreciate, and we appreciate you. It makes the what did the loan machinist say? It makes the wheels on the autism train tick or something like that.
So does it mean we're on the train if we can't get it right?
You know we're on the train, Harrison. At least I am. So we are going to have to up that number at some point here to shorten the list so that it's bearable to the listeners. And I'm sorry for that, but it will be what it is. Q&A. It's finally time. Joseph E. Are you seeing a trend of machinists getting paid more or demanding more money and getting it? From what I am seeing in general, this is the trend. Much of this is happening in the orbit of the fields that are being reshored. Curious to see what your experiences have shown.
Well, I have one employee, and thankfully he has not mutinied me for more pay yet. So I haven't seen it. And to be fair, in my part of the country, we're kind of on the lower end of shops that are kind of modern. So I don't foresee any of them getting paid more anytime soon without some major improvement in technology to justify the increase in pay. So I do not foresee that locally.
I, for the most part, have to say I don't know. I'm self-employed. Like, I'm making more money than I did last year, but that's mostly because I suck less than I did last year.
Mm.
I can say, like, from the stuff I've seen education-wise, the willingness for companies to train and offer, like, good apprenticeships, that is rising. So I'm seeing more companies retrain, like, you know, kind of more general assembly people into, you know, machinists. I'm seeing them take operators and make them into machinists. I'm seeing better perks with apprentice programs, stuff like, you know, paying more college tuition, or, you know, one of the companies I mentioned, I think a couple episodes ago, was they had an engineering student that was like in their apprentice program, and they were not only paying for his engineering degree, but they were also giving him a stipend to go to school while he was working like 20 hours a week or whatever. So like if he wasn't working, he was still getting paid, which is pretty darn good deal that I really wish I had had. And I think we'll see more of that. Unfortunately, I think operators are going to be paid the same or less as time continues because that skill, well, it's not a super skilled job. It's just loading, and that is going to be replaced more and more by machines. But I think there will be more demand for really highly skilled machinists that can set up that kind of stuff and build that automation. So I think if you're in that realm, I think you'll do all right. I think if you're just in the load part press go realm, I think you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, I concur.
All right, max at polar precision. Polar precision. It's not spelled like the North Pole. What do you guys use for undercutting tools? Slitting saws, key seat cutters, indexable slot mills. What suppliers do you use for these, and what strategies and speeds and feeds do you recommend? Last week, I had to cut a snap ring groove in 316 stainless and was struggling with the key seat. I have a job coming up where I need to put wrench flats offset from the end of a shaft, and I want to know if that is a viable option. I have my not a fifth axis on order, but that seems to be on the slow boat from China.
Yeah, so I mean, all my undercutting tools pretty much are Harvey. I haven't really found a need to use anything else. They just work. And their feeds and speeds calculator online does a really good job and works pretty well. If you want to hit me or potentially AJ up personally, we can, you can probably shoot us your numbers and we can take a look at them. But one thing I will say is, like, if you have access to AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, try throwing your specific feeds and speeds for that tool in there and just see what it spits out. I've had pretty good luck with that too for like troubleshooting stuff.
Yeah, I also use a lot of Harvey. I occasionally will get like something weirdo from MSC from just like, some random brand. I had a key seat cutter that I was using in plastic the other day, and I don't know, I basically just bought whatever the cheapest one was. I almost always buy carbide if I can. This one was a high-speed steel tool, and I don't know, it was fine. It was plastic. I use both the like normal key seat cutters and then full radius ones I really like, and I use those a lot. If you're doing any like surfacing underneath an overhang. I've never touched an indexable slot mill, and I probably never will in my life, but that's just my parts.
I have used a slitting saw a couple times, but I don't use them very often.
I do use a slitting saw a lot, but almost exclusively for parting. If I had anything that needed a more controlled radius, like more precision in terms of radius of the tool, I would definitely go key seat cutter. Though most key seat cutters, even nice ones like from Harvey, can be wildly, oversized or undersized. Normally oversized.
I will say that I have a key seat cutter from Harvey that I use on a family of parts, and it's probably cut close to 500 parts, 500 snap rings, and 304 stainless, and a couple 316 stainless with the same tool, and it's still going strong from Harvey.
I think I've broken maybe one Harvey key seat cutter, and that was the one I used to use before I got my slitting saw. And I used it for parting parts, like tabbing them off. Those things just last forever. Probably because I'm scared of them, and so I run them way too conservatively. I've never had tool life issues with them.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had any problems with key seat cutters ever either.
Probably because we're both afraid of breaking them because they're scary tools and seem like they should break, but they defy physics.
True.
Oh, in terms of strategies, I do lots of shallow passes relatively quickly. So like a higher feed per tooth, but shallow passes, and then just a ton of them.
If you're running key seats, most of my key seats are around an 1/8 inch thick and around an 1/8 inch deep, an 1/8 inch tall, an 1/8 inch in. And I usually go about half the distance and do 2 laps to get to final depth. And that works pretty well.
Oh, I had a thought on that and I lost it. I when I find myself doing a key seat cutter, I'm normally doing a little bit more. Like I'm not just doing like a square groove. Normally it's fairly deep.
Mine, I'm using mine to actually cut snap ring grooves a lot.
Yeah. I've never made a snap ring groove. So, okay, if you're like programming a slot in Fusion, like a key seat that's on the side of something, right? We're using the key seat cutter, and the key seat cutter is not the same thickness as the slot, so you have to do it in multiple depths.
Mm-hmm.
So you break it up into 2D contours. The first 2D contour, for the bottom height, you select the bottom of the slot that you're making, and then for top height, you select the top of the slot, and then you type in minus flute length, and Fusion will automatically, like, it knows the flute length of your tool.
Mm-hmm.
And, then you can do your multiple pass, or then you can turn on multiple depths and it'll do the multiple depths. But for some reason, it never does the top height one at the right top height. I think because of how the depths are, you might have to like do some math to make it work. So what I do is I then duplicate that tool path, and for the bottom height, I select the top of the slot and I do minus flute length, and I turn off multiple depths. And with those two tool paths, it'll always give you like your whole slot cleared out at the right height.
Mm-hmm.
That's my pro tip. All right, from Norman, for both Harrison and AJ, what is one decision you still would make, but you wish you made sooner, and one decision you wish you made later?
Do you have one, or do you want me to keep thinking?
I mean, you should still think even if I do have one. This is a hard one, Norman.
This is a good question. It's a really good question. I guess one decision I wish I might have made a little bit sooner, potentially, was my first hire. He's worked out really well, and I think I was really scared of bringing a person in. I'm really happy with who we have. He's an awesome guy. He does great work. And if I had had him a little bit sooner, that means that he would be a little bit more trained today. Not that he's doing bad today, but like he's doing really good. And if I had him sooner, he'd be doing better. So it just would have been better faster. He's been really good for helping bring fresh eyes and a different perspective than both me and Weston. And so problems that he has are problems that we didn't realize were problems typically. And so it gives us an opportunity to grow and become more resilient. And so there's been a lot of positives beyond getting work out the door that I'm really glad we have him for. And one decision that you wish you made later.
While you think about that one, I'll go with the first question. And I wish I had a more recent, newer answer for this one. This is something I've said a couple times, but I should have cut Design the Everything much earlier and, switched over to Audacity Micro earlier. I tried to make Design the Everything work for too long, and it was already dead. In terms of later, I don't think I have anything I wish I had done later.
I think I can think of more things I wish I'd done sooner. Like there's the obvious of like, I wish I had focused earlier, but I didn't know what to focus on. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff that I can think of that like, I wish I had done quicker, but I also kind of give myself leeway as in I didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know kind of a thing. And so had I made that decision earlier, I don't know if it would have caused a different problem because I would have focused on something else or gone in the wrong direction somewhere else. One decision you wish you made later. Yeah.
I could have like left my job a little bit later. I think I was a little bit earlier there. My wife was really pushing me into leaving sooner rather than later. I think because she thought it would make me less busy. She did not quite understand what being a business owner is like. I did not get less busy when I left my job, but she thought it would. And I left my job earlier than I should have.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of one that I wish I had done later. I can't think of one for that. Nothing that stands out. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of little ones like, oh, I could have held off on this for a couple weeks, but like that's nothing like, oh, I could have held off on buying that material or ordering that tool for a week or two. I might have jumped the gun a little bit on, stuff like minor things like that, but I can't think of anything major that I could have pushed back. Most of the stuff I wish I had done earlier, not later.
Julius from Heinz Speed. For AJ, have you fixed the Tormach bandsaw yet? Nope. Have you thoughts of the saw at this point? Love it. Would I purchase it again? Especially at the price I got it for? Yes. So it just like it's the sensor that tells the little pneumatic cylinder that it's already returned to home on the feed forwards just needs to be replaced. I don't do the quantities where I care about the automaticness of my bandsaw basically at all. I think there's been one job where I've missed it, and maybe for doing soft jaws or something, it would be nice, but I just don't need an auto bandsaw. What I do need is a reliable, accurate, normal bandsaw, and it has been exactly that for me. I do have a weird prototype version. It's like the alpha version of the AF50 Plus that's like half built on the AF50 frame and a half built with like the AF50 Plus controls and stuff. So like I have a weird one, and like it has a little bit of a leak to it, and that's my only complaint about it. Other than that, it just works. I have had no problems with the saw. Ooh, actually, wait, not true. I did have one problem. I forgot to mention this. My whole shop got rearranged basically. And with that, I moved the saw. And where I moved the saw, I realized I didn't have a good place to plug it in. And so I put it on an extension cord. And we were trying to cut these parts for the big parts I was making. We were trying to cut the stock. And it kept hitting the thermal reset on the saw. And then we plugged it in with a heavier gauge extension cord, and it was fine. So, not the saw's fault, but lesson learned there.
What's broken on it?
It just needs a new one of those like inductive sensors.
And so you're just using it like a regular saw?
Yeah, I'm just using it like a regular saw. For that big production job I did, it would have been nice, but like, I don't know. I don't make a lot of parts. I make a little bit of a few parts.
Moral of the story for AJ is if something is broken but it kind of works, it'll stay in that state for a long time.
Nothing truer has been said. Yep, it's kind of like the office mill. I got the saw for like $500 or something, and I would do that in a heartbeat. Now, there's a couple things, like I have optimized my workflows to not need to cut a million parts at once. I single piece flow everything, which means, let's say it's even a 5-minute cycle time. That means there's 5 minutes for the saw to cut each part. And after my rearrangel, the saw is right near the mill. So I don't have to go walk across the shop and waste that time. It's like I reach over, I start the material on the saw, I take one step back to the mill, load it in, like I don't need an auto saw. I just don't. There's no reason for me to and there's nothing worse than cutting up all of your material and then realizing you made it a 1/4 inch too short. I'm very one piece flow. And so I feel no need to automate my saw right now. It's the least of my problems. What saw do you have?
I swear it's the exact same saw, just Granger and not automated. It looks identical, even though I'm sure it's technically not, but I'm sure it's made at the same basic factory, or like the bare bones of it are pretty similar.
And you do a lot more parts than I do.
Yeah, which we desperately want to get an auto saw. Excuse me, but it just hasn't happened yet. It's on the list of things I need to purchase when money becomes more readily available. But I have a long list of things that take up that list. So,
and you can just pay a vendor to cut it on their saws if it's really a crazy amount of parts.
So, like anything over 20, depending on the size, between 20 and 100, it depends. If it's small parts and we have it in stock, we'll cut it. But like for the most part, and like I did the numbers to have my material suppliers cut material. I think it's like 50 cents extra depending for like the bulk of the stuff that we have them auto cut for us. It's like 50 cents more. And so for us to buy a nice auto saw, the amount of parts we would have to order, which is definitely like the payback period would be like 2-3 years. But it's still a lot of money to do that, to justify that. And space is another problem. So,
and power,
which power is about to be fixed. We had the electrician out there today looking over things. So, they should be looking into that soon.
But TLDR, yeah, the saw's fine. It's fine. Do you need the auto saw? Maybe. If you do, there's not really a cheaper option out there. If you don't, then whatever, it's still fine, but there's cheaper options.
Like the auto saw from the Tormach up to the next reliable thing is like
double, triple,
like quadruple. Yeah.
How much is the Haas one? I was thinking it was 10,000, but am I off?
40.
Oh, so yes. Do they have different levels now?
Like, I think
it's 40.
I think the cheapest one I saw at IMTS, whenever we went last time, was around 25 grand, 25 to 30 ballpark range.
Does Haas just have the one saw?
Haas just has the one saw. So
I think they add other saws.
They only have the one that I know of.
They only have the one confirmed. They have a vertical.
Yeah, but not an auto saw. That's just like a regular, just vertical bandsaw.
Yeah, I would like one. That would be nice. Do you have any sort of vertical bandsaw?
Yeah, mine if I stand it up.
Okay. I have one of those porta-bands that's set up on the Harbor Freight table for it.
Yeah.
And I use that sucker all the time. Like all the time.
Yeah.
So I would love a vertical bandsaw, but
it wouldn't do anything for me with our workflow.
I do a lot of stuff from thin sheets, and that's what I use it for. And I actually, a lot of the times when I'm doing more production-y work, I'm doing it out of plastic. And I get plastic in big sheets, and I cut it up on my table saw. Overdrive Engineering, how much has AI enhanced your programming? And does it output quality toolpaths that translate to good machining practice?
So I'm guessing that's would you call that a toolpath question or just AI?
It's basically a toolpath question.
Yeah, because I was talking about AI and ChatGPT for like technical questions, but I'll let you answer the toolpath one because we've demoed it several times and we don't really use it on a regular basis.
I sometimes have parts where it's 100%. Most of the time, it's 85%, and then I'm adding a couple toolpaths or tweaking stuff. I would say it definitely speeds me up most of the time. And I generally have a pretty good instinct for I'm not even going to bother with this part versus, let toolpath handle the easy stuff and I'll just handle the weird stuff.
Yeah. For us, most of our stuff is at this point, the bulk of the job shop type stuff that we do is stuff I've already programmed. So it's either already programmed, even if it was done a year or two ago. And so I just open it up and update a couple things here and there, or it's something that I would never trust toolpath to do because it's a production job that's going on a robot that's, either going in my lathe or full 5 and has a whole bunch of stuff that just I wouldn't really trust AI for. However, as I've mentioned a couple times, I have started using Copilot and as like a sounding board for problems, and I just describe what I'm doing and what I've tried, and What it does is it gives me a fresh perspective to think about things from a different angle and will point out things that I might have missed to look into. And it's done a really good job of being a sounding board for ideas to figure out what to do. I won't say it's like right 100%, but it does a really good job of giving me ideas that lead to a solution.
I will say we are thinking about removing it from the subtract quoting process.
Really?
We have been talking about that with quoting 2.0, which I've been, well, not working on, but I should be working on.
Why?
We don't think, like, when Toolpath first started, we first started working with them, Toolpath was like, we are working on quoting, AI Toolpath CAM is hard, but using Toolpath for quoting is like, or using AI for quoting is easy. And we were like, okay, we want it for quoting. This is great. That's when we started using Toolpath. And since then, they've gone more and more into we're doing CAM automation, and they're not like updating their quoting stuff. It's not getting better. And that's fine. Like they're pretty public. They're like, they're doing CAM automation now. That's their thing. They're not a quoting platform. And so if they're just going to be stagnant forever on that, then why do we want to build our system around them? I'll still use it for CAM automation, and I'm really happy with how it's going. But I don't think it'll necessarily be a good long-term solution for quoting. Which brings into mind, what is the better solution? And I don't have a good idea at all. It might be a heck of a container method. It might be, we have the ability to do some AI quoting stuff, but it would be hard and take a long time. Quoting 2.0 is removing a lot more of the work from Toolpath and putting it on the person already anyway.
I might have something for you.
What do you have?
I just got a phone call today from a new company, and I was not planning on talking about this on the podcast yet. But I just got a phone call from a company that's a startup like Toolpath was back in the day, and they're looking for small shops to partner with to do part quoting. And I mentioned Toolpath, and they said, that's great. We're not doing CAM automation. We're just doing quoting. So if you're interested, they were supposed to send me an email, and I was going to try to look into what they are, but totally not planned. But I might have to have you check them out.
Yeah, send them our way. Part of me wants to control the quoting method, like it be our own system. Mm-hmm. But I also accept it's a really hard problem to solve, and like other people are, spending all of their effort on these things.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, interesting.
Jason S., for both, have you considered adding a 3D scanner to your capabilities? Why or why not?
I want a 3D scanner so bad. I have not justified one yet, but they are getting cheaper in price. And we do a lot of 3D printing, and I feel like if I had one in my shop, I would use it all the time, just like they do the 3D printer.
I am willing to accept that it might be a super useful tool, and I'm just not enlightened, but I have zero desire for one. If it was scan something and you get a functional step file that you can edit easily, sure. But it's not that. You get a point cloud that you have to figure out what to do with it. And all of the software, to my understanding, sucks. And you end up with like 1 billion points. They crash Fusion and you can't edit it. And like maybe someday when the software gets good enough. But also, I'm not making bumpers and I need to like go scan a Ford Mustang and figure out how big their bumper is and then 3D model my own. Like, no, the customer sends me a model, and if they don't, I don't work with them, and I have no desire for one. That's that.
I want one really bad.
Cool.
I'm the opposite of you in a way. I there's so many projects around the shop where it's like I want a little bracket on this thing, but I don't want to go measure it up and print it 5 times to get the perfect fit. And if I could just scan it and get, the bulk of it close enough where I can model based off of the information from that scan and make sure it's going to fit in 3D space. That's all I need.
I think there's so many steps to get there. It's just not worth it. Talk to Kurt.
I don't think so. I mean, and the only reason I say that is because there's a different shop that has one, and I've had to work with some of the data that they spit out in the past, and it's not that bad. If you're just using it as a reference model, it's real easy to make a couple planes based off of the data and then build your model. Like, I'm not trying to take the data that it outputs and turn it into a model. I'm using it as a placeholder and then modeling around it to make sure I don't crash and bump into things. And it's perfect for that type of stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Like I said, don't actually have any experience, but...
So, I'm not trying to make a 3D model that I'm going to use. I'm trying to scan it to get environmental information so I can design a model that fits into that environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
And so
that would be a good use case for it.
And for that, it would be incredible. Because, there's a lot of stuff that, I want to scan on my machines or different spots in my shop to, make different things to improve my equipment or my processes or my workflow or cleaning or maintenance or whatever it is. Where we're reverse engineering little things in our shop all the time, that it would just be nice to be able to just scan that, throw that in there, see what I can come up with, print something out, and have it. I might have to make an iteration once or twice, but not as much as I do normally.
I wonder how photogrammetry works for that kind of application.
I don't know. That seems like a lot more work to me than the other. And so, but yeah, I just want to play with, because I've watched a lot of videos of guys. 3D scanning has gotten really popular in the shop car projects where guys want to mod out their cars, and so they're scanning things, and then
this is why I said bumper specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. And so looking at what they're using it and how they're using it, it doesn't look that bad from the videos I've watched on that kind of stuff. And so I really want to try one.
I think a lot of people in the machining world want it for Farmer Joe brings in tractor parts, sets tractor part on desk and says, make me one of these. And they expect that they can just scan it, or they want to be able to just scan it and then make that part. No. And that's why I'm no on scanning, but I'm sure, not if you want to
I'm not using it
build
for
a
that.
bracket to go in an existing space, that makes more sense to me.
I'm not wanting to use it to reverse engineer parts specifically. I'm wanting to be able to make things and without having to measure where it's going. So, and there's a lot of stuff around my house. There's a lot of little projects here and there outside of work that I'd like to have an excuse to have it at work that I can use it at home, if that makes sense. Justify it for the shop so I can play with it outside of the shop. There's some of that too. But
print yourself a new Harrison.
Yeah, sure. No.
Ryan at Horse and Tool, are both of you still implementing the Profit First system? I think we've answered this a couple times.
I am, and you
are not.
So, for different reasons.
Yeah. I have an OpEx account and which is kind of just my everything account now, and a CapEx account, and taxes is just where I'm at now. And then Subtract has its own. Oh, I also have an emergency fund account where Subtract just has OpEx and emergency.
Yeah. We have all of our stuff in different buckets. It gets challenging. When buckets get low, we have to get creative. It's not a perfect system. It's not a magic fix-all button, but it does a really good job of helping to track the health of the business, at least for us. It gives us a good idea it gives us early warnings and helps us to track trends. I feel a lot better in general.
Patrick B., AJ especially, can you talk about the swings from great productivity weeks and then showing up, but to then showing up? I think we can just eliminate that. especially AJ, can you talk about swings from great productivity weeks to practically wasting the next week? I really related to that, and I'm looking for tips. I think this is an ADHD question. Speaking about something on wheels in the train.
So let me ask you this question, AJ, to try to dive into this question a little bit better. Do you have really productive weeks and then weeks where you're not productive? And is that because of systems or things that are distracting you from getting the stuff that you need to get done? Or is it just because you have, work for Audacity, work for Subtract, teaching? Is it because you have such a wide range of things you're working on simultaneously that has you go from productive to feel like you're wasting time? Or is it ADD or just bad systems?
So this is where I was going to start, is there's two different kinds of not productive weeks. Last week, I was fairly focused and dialed in the whole week, and I still feel like I got basically nothing done. And that was because, on Wednesday, I drove to Iowa and picked up a robot. On Thursday, I drove home from Iowa and unloaded a robot. On Friday, actually fairly productive. On Saturday, my sister was kind enough to take our for, that night. And so I hung out with my wife all day. I wasn't going to be, working when, had time to focus with my wife. So that's 3 days gone already. I had a bunch of meetings, which are, I suppose, getting things done, but also not getting things done at the same time. And I just had, I was very busy. I was able to focus pretty well on the things I was doing, but the things I was doing were not rolling the ball forwards, other than picking up a robot, I suppose. The other side is there's sometimes where I have the time, I have the space, I have everything ready to go, and where the ADHD struggle does come into play. And that was 2 weeks ago, I think it was, where I came out of that super busy week. And the next week, on paper, I should have had a ton of time to get work done. And I just spent a lot of the time sitting there, staring at my computer, banging my head against my desk, trying to get stuff done where I physically just could not make forward progress. Busyness happens, getting tired happens, getting burnt out happens. And those are all, things that happen to everybody. But then also you get the ADHD things that happen to some people, where no matter how much they want to work, no matter how much you want to get things done, your brain is just not having it. And those are different things. And at this point, I've gotten pretty good at telling them apart. And I don't know, sometimes I can get over it. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes it just takes me a little while where okay, I'm sitting here for whatever reason, I'm not solving this problem that I need to solve. I'm not getting the thing done that I need to get done in my computer. So I'm going to go clean my shop, or I'm going to take a walk, or, I'm just going to feed parts to the machine, because I can do that no matter how focused I am. And I lost where I was going with that. Speaking of attention, I don't know. I feel those differences. Fun fact, I tried to make an appointment to go talk to a doctor and actually get some medications for this. And they didn't, they stopped answering me. And I haven't called them back because that feels like a lot of work, which is the most ADHD thing ever. But
I'm so ADHD, I can't even get meds.
Seriously. And it's been on my list for a long time and I keep putting it off. And so I was actually at church on Sunday. I went and found the phone number that I need to call and put it on my to-do list, because that was one stupid little barrier of entry. And tearing down those stupid little barriers of entry are, that's one of the big techniques that works for me. Talking about that stupid 6-inch traditional vise, one of the reasons the 0-point system works so well for me is because I post the code, I walk up to the machine, and I hit go. And there's, zero friction there, which works well from a process side in terms of machining. But also, on days where you can't focus no matter what you do, that also makes it a whole lot easier. And yeah, just removing any roadblocks like that, making sure my tools are organized so I'm not spending half an hour looking for my torque wrench because I walked off with it and used it at the Haas or something. Like having my nice Kaizen layout, stuff like that helps a lot. Just identifying that like you're stuck in the I'm not able to focus on things loop, and just like be okay with that and go do something else is really helpful. Like, sometimes I'll realize that I've sat at my computer for an hour and not got anything done. And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna get anything done today. And I'll go inside.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like there's a whole lot I can add to that. You've basically said more or less everything that I would say. I would say that I'm kind of the same way. I go in cycles. It seems like it's 1 to 2 month cycles where I go into times where I can just focus, and it seems like I can focus really well for like 2 to 3 weeks, and then I get into periods where like I can't focus and I can't get anything done. And it doesn't matter what I do, what I say, what I think, what I try to do. It's like a squirrel, or like I just have mental blocks I can't get over. And then it clears up after a couple weeks, and then I'm back to I can just focus and get in the zone and just stay there. And it seems to be like on like a month or two rotation for me. And I've noticed that for a long time.
That might be some amount of maybe not burnout, but like just exhaustion.
It could be, but I've noticed it consistently for a very long time for me personally. In like I'll give you an example. Like there might be times where I get into like a game, and I will play that game as much as I can. And this is just an example. And I will get so into it, and then like one day it just doesn't interest me at all. And then like I have no interest in it. I have no focus on it. I don't care. It's like a switch has been flipped, and all that excitement, energy I had towards this thing is now dead. And when you have a business, you can't just do that. And so you have to go in and you have to do work and you have to get it done. And so it becomes almost a blockade, like of your own making, kind of.
Yeah. One thing that helps me a lot, and this is a little bit of a dangerous way I found of regulating my attention, is the audiobook or the podcast or the YouTube videos I'm watching at the time makes a big difference in how well I can focus. If I'm listening to a really good audiobook that I'm very like I get deeply invested in, and like it's holding my attention, I'm able to focus at other things much better. If I'm having like if I'm, let's say I finish my audiobook and I'm starting a new one and I'm just not super invested in the new one, I'm not super interested in it, I have a really hard time focusing in the shop. And I mean, it's like I said, it's both good and bad, where like, having a good way of regulating my attention. Like right now I'm rewatching Ted Lasso, and that's great. I love that show. And, I'm able to legitimately get more stuff done with that show in the background because I'm enjoying it. And, it's something I'm rewatching. It's okay if I miss 10 minutes of it because I'm working on something else. But I don't know. It just kind of helps pull my brain back and keep it on track. But like, if I'm listening to a new audiobook that I don't love and like it's not holding my attention, then like nothing holds my attention. And that's where I kind of struggle, which is why it's maybe not the greatest coping technique of all time. But that is something that I've noticed.
Yeah. For me, I mean, if I can get good sleep and I'm not incredibly stressed, I do better. I find that like usually the times that I can't focus are also the times I can't sleep as well, or I'm stressed out.
That
makes
also perfect sense.
That also plays into it a lot. Although sometimes I will say, sometimes the high, like you can get into a high stress situation and then you get into a flow state, and that is the best feeling in the world.
Yes.
Like that's kind of what happened the last 2 weeks. is like we had a lot of pressure to get stuff out the door, and I had enough stress that it was not a burden, but enough that like allowed me to push into a flow state and just get shit done. And it felt really good.
Yeah. The type of work makes a big difference too. So like, for, let's say I'm taking job shop work. It is very easy for me to focus on the job shop work, like, troubleshooting the parts, even just feeding the machine. Like, that's fine. I can do that all day. If something's going wrong with cam, I can go focus on cam generally pretty well to fight through that. Where I really struggle is like with subtract, with like quoting 2.0. This should have been done 3 weeks ago. But to do it well, I need like a long, uninterrupted time where I can like sit and think about it.
Yeah.
And it's very important, but it's not super urgent. And so it's easy to get pushed back. It's easy to get interrupted by like family or by, like the school needing to do a meeting about this class that's in August. And I don't know why we're talking about it right now, but it's like, it's important. And that's really where I need to get my act together. I figured out how to make parts while having a hard time focusing. I have not figured out how to revamp quoting systems or, do any of the other subtract things that I need to do while I'm having a hard time focusing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last thing on our list here is a weight loss update. I am down about a half pound from last week, give or take. It might just be noise. I'm still having kind of a hard time. I think we talked about that last time, where I haven't been doing super well. I've started to get a little bit like back into behaving well in my diet, but as we talked about, I was gone Wednesday and Thursday traveling all day. And then on Saturday, had a day with my wife and we went on a date and we went to a restaurant and, that's harder. So I don't know. I'm at least the same. I might be down a little bit just depending on normal weight fluctuations.
Speaking of motivation and weight loss and all that, I've been talking about going to the gym for like a month and my wife is probably about to shoot me and just says I need to do it. But I need to get on a schedule where I can go back to the gym and start being active, because going to the shop 6 days a week and working 6 full days with 1 day off is something that like I can do and I've done for, I guess, 5 years at this point. But at some point you do need to take care of your body, and that hasn't really been a priority for quite a while.
Yep, I get that.
So anyone who started a business, I'm sure, gets that. It's important but not urgent, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I would like even just taking a walk. Like that's something I like. It's something I enjoy. The weather is super nice outside, but I don't know. It's 10:05 right now p.m. I got up and moving I was probably out of bed at 8. I've been on kind of a later schedule, still stuck from when I was teaching those night classes. So I've been like kind of getting up at 8. I was in the shop at probably 8:30. And since then, I have not had like any spare time for anything. Like I've been just solid from thing to thing to thing to thing. Part of that was I did have to do like a handoff with the guy who's taking over the Department of Corrections classes for me, which was a fun hour and a half of driving, about an hour of meeting, and then an hour and a half back. So that was a lot of my day today.
Oh, are you done teaching officially?
I am done with the Department of Corrections classes.
Okay.
So the Department of Corrections classes were the ones that were fairly regular in the evening, and those were the ones that were killing me. I have a couple classes lined up for the rest of the year that are shorter, limited classes during the day. Like one of them is a 2-week class in May that's like Monday through Friday, normal business hour kind of thing. I think it starts at 7 and gets done at like 3 or something. And then in April, I have another one that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The one that makes that one interesting is it's 2.5 hours away from me. So I'll probably stay in a hotel, which will probably actually be really good for Subtract because I'll get done at 3:30 in Binford, Indiana, and there will be nothing to do except work on our quoting system or whatever.
That'll be good. Force you to focus.
Yeah, it'll kind of suck to be gone 2 days or 2 nights a week, but I don't know. They pay me really well when I travel, so it's worth it. The problem with the DOC classes is I was driving like 3 hours a day to teach for like 4 hours. And so even though, the hourly pay they were giving me was pretty good, actually very good, it gets cut in half by all the driving. Plus, because I was driving so much, one, I was eating a lot of gas, which is expensive right now. And two, I was generally buying out at least one meal a day, sometimes two, which also, hey, did not help with the weight loss.
Yeah.
And so my effective hourly rate went down a lot on that.
Pretty quick.
Yep.
Fair enough. Got anything else?
Oh, so I mentioned that I'm choosing a name for the robot.
Oh yeah. What are the two names?
I have 2 candidates. So, and I have good reasons for both of these. First one is Skippy.
Skippy?
So, Skippy is a AI in the Expeditionary Force book series that I have read. I think I'm 19 books in, and there's like I've read 18 books, and the 19th one just came out.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a little Kindle e-reader, and I think the first Expeditionary Force was the first book I read on that thing, and then I spent like 2 years reading the series because I'd only read it right before bed, and I'd read like 5 or 10 minutes, then fall asleep. So it took me I read that series for like 2 years straight. One of the main characters, Skippy the AI, they describe him as a beer can shaped cylinder. He's very sarcastic, dubious ethics at times, but generally good-hearted. Kind of problematic, but also saves the day a lot. So that was Skippy. Skippy would be a great name for it. The other name is Mongo, which Mongo is a velociraptor in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, where he's one of the main character's pets and is both loyal but also at times problematic.
Both sound like they could be good names.
Yeah, they both sound like good robot names because they will be at times problematic. So I like both of them. I think more people would get the Mongo reference than the Skippy reference, except maybe in our specific community. There might be more people who have read Expeditionary Force because it's more of a sci-fi versus the Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is more in the fantasy side.
I haven't read either of them. I don't know about either of them.
They're both pretty good. I like them both, but I don't know. Those are my 2 thoughts right now. I did think about going with something in the Bobiverse series because you named yours Milo, and there is a Milo who's a character in the Bobiverse series books. But I didn't just want to name him Bob. So maybe that would be funny. I don't know.
Bob. This is Bob.
Bob. Fine. Now that's on the list. I do definitely foresee Bob / Mongo / the Skippy being a fairly big character in my videos. I think he's going to be great for engagement.
I think if you do Bob, you got to put googly eyes on it.
Oh, there's going to be googly eyes regardless. For Skippy, I don't know. You can dress him up like a beer can. I don't know. But there might even be merch for this robot. I think it'll do well. We'll put him on a t-shirt or something.
There you
go. I don't know. Feedback in the comments. What should I name him? Bob, Skippy, Mongo.
Fair enough. All right, guys. We have derailed this train and beaten a horse and gotten sidetracked.
Pulverized a horse
and gotten sidetracked. So now it's time that we let you go. thanks for hanging out with us. And
subscribe to the YouTube channel so that we can monetize it.
Yeah, subscribe to the Taps and Patience YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe.
You already said subscribe.
Anyways, thanks guys for hanging out, and we'll catch you next time.
Taps and patience, our daily grind. In this machine shop, we'll always find joyous struggles, all intertwined. Taps and patience, one of a kind.
I thought I accidentally started it again. I'm leaning towards Mongo. And just Velociraptor feels appropriate for a cobot.
I like Mongo. I think that's a good one too.
Also, one of the not catchphrases, but one of the reoccurring phrases in the book is "Mongo, no!" And I think that would be funny because I could just yell that at the robot.
That's a good one. Please like, subscribe, and
you
share.
Said that.
Huh?
You already said subscribe.
Oh, I did. Well, you interrupted me, so I had to say it again.
Okay.
So
this is a revenge for the intro.
It is. So, yeah.